humanity. Our program will begin momentarily, but before it does, please place your telephone on silent. We're going to be live streaming this evening. But before the program begins, I want to give you a hint. Log on to our website at www.livinglegendsawards.org to make a donation. Yes, you can do it right now, tonight. That's www.livinglegendsawards.org to make your donation. Now, donations can be made 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and yes, including this evening. As I said, the ceremony is being streamed live on YouTube and on Facebook. So put on your biggest smile, remove that gum from your mouth, and text your friends and your family. Let them know that now is the time to tune in. Sit back, relax, enjoy tonight's special event. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Pastor Alex Barrientos, Senior Pastor here at the Sligo Seventh-day Adventist Church.
Good evening, everyone. We would like to welcome every single one of you and thank you for coming out tonight to celebrate this Living Legends Awards 17th year. We'd like to invite you to the Sligo Seventh-day Adventist Church. May you have a great evening tonight. I would like to pray at this moment as we begin, as we celebrate, but also would like to make sure that the Spirit also comforts guests, presenters, and of course, our director this evening. Let us pray. God of peace, we invite you to preside, to comfort us this evening. We may all come from different backgrounds, but we ask that you unite us in spirit. Help us to listen, knowing that we are in need of your comfort. There are brothers and sisters in different parts of the world who are currently suffering. And we ask that in one spirit and heart, that you respond to their prayers. And we who are at a distance participate in that suffering. Tonight, thank you for who you are. Thank you for your steadfastness. Thank you for bringing us together, for the goodness that there is in this place. We thank you for the light that is shown through, and we thank you for what is possible when you are glorified. In your name we pray. Amen.
The world is bitter. They offer sweetness, gentleness. When challenges stare them down, they stare right back. They are the first to see the horizon of disaster. In the same way, they are the first to see the horizon of possibilities. They are our frontline heroes. These are our legends. Tonight, at the 17th Annual Living Legends Awards for Service to Humanity, we honor individuals who have courageously stood on the front line of the critical issues of our day. Through the power of vivid art and world-class music, we will celebrate their commitment to boldly stand as our vanguard. Tonight, we show appreciation to the living legends who stand in the gap for us. For when we need hope, we look to them. We look to them because we believe in them. We believe in them because in the most energizing and elegant of ways, they help us to believe in humanity and ultimately believe in ourselves.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage Mrs. Doreen Hines, Executive Director of the Living Legends Awards for Service to Humanity.
Good evening. Welcome to the 17th Annual Living Legends Awards for Service to Humanity. I want to just start by saying thank you to the Sligo Seventh-day Adventist Church under the leadership of Pastor Alex Barrientos and his pastoral team. You've opened your arms and welcomed us in and allowed us to host this event here. We appreciate your hospitality. And to our faith community partners who have hung in there with us for over 17 years. We would not have made it without the nurture and care and support of the Emmanuel Brinklow Seventh-day Adventist Church in Ashton, Maryland. Our brilliant and gifted senior pastor, Dr. Anthony Medley, took a lateral pass from his predecessor, Dr. Marcellus Robinson, 13 years ago, and he never missed a step. He took it to the house. He and his team have guided us, supported us, and provided a home where this foundation can grow and live out its mission of service to humanity. So we say thank you. Thank you. Tonight, I want to do a special shout out to Pastor Dwayne Esmond. Your gifts bless us all, and we love you. We are here on the campus of Washington Adventist University, a campus we frequented pre-pandemic because President Dr. Weymouth Spence and his administrative team have always been supportive of us. They have given us access in meaningful ways. And the university is well represented tonight. You heard this lovely orchestra and chorale behind us. And some of the nursing faculty was assisting with health checks. We thank you for always being there to support us, Washington Adventist University. And thank you to Oakwood University in Huntsville, Alabama, where President Leslie Pollard has always given us access to the brilliance that's resident on that campus. We cherish it. Thank you, and thank you, Dr. Prudence Pollard, for your advice and your training. Thank you to Adventist Healthcare, who has come on board and given us much needed support. We thank you, and we see your efforts to improve the lives of the communities which we all serve. That goal we have in common. I want to take a little commercial break here. And I want to let our audience know that Adventist Healthcare has launched the Lucy Byard Scholarship. It's a needs-based merit opportunity for gifted nursing students. And through this scholarship, Adventist Healthcare seeks to address racial disparities and economic inequities as part of their larger commitment to equity, diversity, and inclusion. The scholarship also seeks to honor the legacy of Lucy Byard, who, a devout Seventh-day Adventist, was turned away from one of Adventist Healthcare's facilities because of the color of her skin in 1943. Adventist Healthcare has learned from that failure and has used it to commit themselves and to recommit to its mission statement, which was purposefully written and explicitly clear. And I quote, "We extend God's care through the ministry of physical, mental, and spiritual healing, period. We minister to everyone entrusted to our care." And their vision statement further clarifies that, quote, "We will provide a world-class patient experience to every person, every time." Thank you, Adventist Healthcare. And if you want to find out more about the scholarship, go to AdventistHealthcare.com, Lucy Byard Scholarship. We love you. Thank you to our faith community partners who have helped us this far. By now, we've all grown too familiar with the Universal Declaration that the COVID-19 pandemic has changed life as we know it and forced us to reimagine life in community. In 2021, we went virtual for the first time due to the risks associated with in-person gatherings. While it was another stellar experience, we have missed your faces in this space, the beauty of your smiles, the twinkle in your eyes, the warmth of your fellowship. To be sure, normal is new, but so are you. You're vaxxed and boosted, masked and suited, spaced and rebooted. Are you ready for the Living Legends Awards tonight? Every unselfish act of love whispers God's name. That was tweeted by Bob Goff, a New York Times best-selling author whose saying captured a truth almost too deep for words. What would the world be without selfless acts of love by selfless actors who love? People who front-load care to banish despair, decency to banish despondency, hope to banish fear. Wherever you see other-centered benevolence, know that you are on the front lines of the highest human endeavor this side of heaven. Look there, and you will see courage in the face of danger, endurance in the face of exhaustion, perseverance in the face of pain. Come closer, and you will see her, them, and their tribe working tirelessly on the front lines of a global pandemic, putting their lives at risk to save the lives of vaccinated and the unvaccinated. They are the gloved ones, the masked ones, face shielded and PPE adorned. They take our mess and still give their best. Ladies and gentlemen, tonight we honor our awesome nurses, the heroes and heroines holding our teetering healthcare system together. Their unselfish acts of love whisper God's name to millions around the world. We have a special member of the tribe with us tonight. For the past 2 years, the pandemic has dominated headlines, and rightly so. But all around us, life goes on. While some address the pandemic we can see, who will address the ones we cannot see? The absence in places where there should be a presence, the missing among the many. If you look closely enough, you'll find her there. Where? On the front lines at the intersection of diversity, inclusion, and opportunity in the fields of science, technology, engineering, and math. She's not wowed by those who are present, but those who are absent. She believes in achievement, but she also believes that all can achieve if the environment is right. To bring missing faces into welcoming spaces, she whispers God's name through selfless acts of love that uplift the underrepresented and the underserved. Whether we choose to acknowledge it or not, we are living in a seminal moment in American history. If this moment seems familiar, you probably are a person of color, for daily we are reminded that freedom is not really free, and rights are not beyond the reach of Jim Crow 2.0. Tonight in America, Black people are in danger of losing rights that their ancestors paid for in blood. The Voting Rights Act of 1965 outlawed the discriminatory voting practices favored by Southern states. The John R. Lewis Voting Advancement Act of 2021 would restore those provisions of the Voting Rights Act that were gutted by the United States Supreme Court in Shelby versus Holder in 2013. While passed in August of 2021, the Lewis Voting Advancement Act remains blocked in the US Senate. The way has been long, and the fight to preserve the voting rights of Black Americans and all people of color has been tiring. But some frontline warriors never stop fighting. Why? Because each little victory is an act of love that whispers the name of God. If you want to see one of them at work, you'll find her on the front lines of voting rights battles in the state of Georgia and beyond. In the 2020 election of Georgia's 2 Senate races, she and a coalition of love warriors made 500,000 phone calls and face-to-face visits to Georgia voters, registering countless numbers and helping others to vote absentee. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the front lines. Welcome to the place where we will celebrate the selfless acts of 3 who whisper the name of God in service to humanity. Prepare to be blessed.
Please welcome again the Living Legends Award singers and the Columbia Collegiate Chorale of the Washington Adventist University.
Good evening. Good evening. It's within that same vein that I find it appropriate to share the numbers that we'll be sharing with you this evening. The first one will be entitled, I Am a Poor Wayfaring Stranger. And as we look to acknowledge those who have spent time in service and helping others in transitioning from a place into a better place, we too are individuals who, like the spiritual has said, are sometimes wayfaring and we're looking for a way out. Sometimes the only way out is through. And this spiritual sings to that note as well. This leads us to the second item, which will be a piece of a larger work. It is a short work entitled Daniel, which is part of a large opera called Songs of the Slave, written by Kirk Meacham. Why this is significant is because Meacham pens in this motive, in this movement, a picture of John Brown, the white abolitionist who fought for the liberation of slaves in the South, to rescuing a family, a mother of which was with child and had the child in his care, and then the mother names the child John Brown. He juxtaposes this scenario with "Didn't my Lord deliver Daniel?" and all of us who also need delivering. These two spirituals end with a tone of freedom, and as we finish this expression of being free, we have this unrestrained joy that we want to share with everyone else, as I can tell the world how God has brought us this joy. 3 songs for you this evening.
Traveling through people, sing with me. I'm free, I'm free. Come on, sing with me. I'm free. Did my Lord, did my Lord, did my Lord deliver Daniel, Daniel, did my Lord deliver Daniel? Why not every man? Why not? He delivered Daniel from the lion's den and Jonah from the belly of the whale. Thank you, Lord. And the Hebrew children from the fiery furnace. So why not everyone? Why not? Why not everyone? Why not? Did my Lord, did my Lord, yes, so thank you, oh thank you, my Lord. Yes, so thank you, thank you, Lord. Why not? Why not? Why not? Why not everyone? Now here's a verse, one more verse. Come along and sing it with me. You all know the gospel truth about how John Brown set me free. That's the gospel truth about how John Brown set me free. Don't you know the man who delivered me and saved me from the devil's living hell? Thank you, John Brown. I named my baby little John Brown. And changed my name to Daniel. Change my name to Daniel. Yes, so thank you, oh thank you, my Lord. Oh yes, John Brown, he delivered Daniel. Yes, so thank you, John Brown. John Brown delivered Daniel. If John Brown delivered Daniel.
You've seen her on television, read about her in the newspaper. Perhaps you even voted for her on the Oakwood University platform. For this 12-year-old college student, the sky's the limit. Ladies and gentlemen, introducing to you the 2022 aspiring legend, Alana Anale.
12-year-old Elena Anale.
Alina Anale.
Alina Anale.
Elena Anale.
Elena Anale is majoring in mechanical engineering at ASU and has a NASA director as her mentor. She wants to be among the youngest to work at NASA and go to space, of course. Well, she says if there is life out there, she wants to be the one to discover it.
We could be all moving to Mars one day, or we could be on Jupiter's moon in, who knows, a year, just because we found something that could mean life.
Hello, welcome to Brainiac World.
The Texas 12-year-old is on an impressive journey, about to begin college. What will you be majoring in college?
I'll be majoring in mechanical engineering and a double major in chemistry.
Sounds complex, but to Elena, it's all about a simple love for science.
I love the idea of space. I love that we're still trying to find out what is going on.
Her passion for engineering is years in the making.
It's not usual that you would see a lot of women or girls in STEM jobs.
Elena hopes to change that through Brown STEM Girl, the program she founded to pave the way for others.
Today we're going to do the short-term goal activity.
Her organization provides learning opportunities in science, technology, engineering, and math to young girls of color like Shantana White.
I think she can mentor me to actually be a better person.
Elena has already grabbed the attention of NASA, where she plans to work one day, driven by a dream of reaching the stars.
All I'm here to do is show that there could be a group of young girls who can excel in the fields of STEM with nobody telling them no, or you're too young to do this. Well, I made a dream and I made it happen.
She'll take summer classes virtually at ASU before transferring to Oakwood University in Alabama. She hopes to receive both her bachelor and master's degrees and become the youngest intern at NASA.
Hi, I'm Elena Anale. I'm so happy to be accepting the Aspiring Legend Award. I'm the founder of the Brown STEM Girl. the organization where we inspire, engage, and empower women and girls of color in STEM all over the world. Want to know more? I'm on Instagram and Facebook. You can also find me at my website, vsgscholars.com. I just made history as the youngest to intern for NASA, also nominated for Forbes 30 Under 30. I was also selected to be the Ebony and Olay Top 10 HBCU STEM Queen. I'm a pre-med student at Oakwood University, and I hope to become a cardiothoracic surgeon in the future.
All my life, I've just said reach. Because guess what? I reached for the job in the intern in the college, and I didn't stop.
Alina started her own business, The Brown STEM Girl, and wants to empower young girls to join the STEM industry. She wants to help students get scholarships and excel in STEM education.
Please welcome to the stage Chairman of the Board, Jason Allen, to present the Brinklow Micro Grant.
Good evening. The Brinklow Humanitarian Microgrant. The name pays homage to our home, the Emmanuel Brinklow Seventh-day Adventist Church, the place of our birth. No matter where our journey takes us, when we present this award, we honor those who made it possible. You know. Tonight, the Brinklow Humanitarian Microgrant of $1,000 goes to Black Girls Vote. The organization was founded in 2015 with the mission to inspire women of color to use the political process to improve the quality of life for their families and their collective community. They believe that their vote and their voice are one. Accepting on behalf of Black Girls Vote, help me welcome Ms. Shamir Eaton.
Thank you so much. As he said, I'm Shamir Eaton, and I currently serve as the Volunteer Committee Lead. And on behalf of Black Girls Vote, we definitely want to thank you all for this honor. As you know, with the pandemic, we were forced to shift how we did things in regard to engaging with the community and in our efforts for outreach. But we were able to come up with ways to still reach the community with our efforts with Party at the Mailbox, and also our advocacy and reports and our virtual celebrations. We are proud of our accomplishments, but we also know that it would not be possible without the people that we serve in the community. Each city, each neighborhood, and each individual that we have worked with have made our growth tangible. Thank you for acknowledging the work that we have done, the movement that we are building, and the outreach that continues to be fundamental to who we are as an organization. This award will assist Black Girls Vote in its continued efforts to improve the quality of life for our families and the collective community. There is power in our voices. We have the ability to create real change for ourselves and our communities. So much good can happen when we utilize our vote as our voice, and when we meet people where they are in our journey to push policy that can improve our day-to-day lives. Thank you to the Living Legends Awards for Service to Humanity Foundation and for recognizing Black Girls Vote. We humbly accept this award with great gratitude. Thank you.
Welcome now, Mr. Robert Kennedy III, here to tell you how you can support future living legends.
As a little kid in Jamaica, I remember sitting on the railing of the porch, or the veranda, as we called it. And my mom had just given me she sliced a really nice big piece of watermelon. And I'm sitting there on the veranda, and I'm getting ready to eat this watermelon, and I take a first bite. And I take the seed out of my mouth and I chuck it onto the lawn in front of the veranda. And my dad comes by and he says, "Bobby, don't throw the seeds onto the lawn." Now, like most little kids, I think there's certain words that have a frequency that doesn't really work with kids' minds. And so instead of hearing, "Bobby, don't throw the seeds onto the lawn," I heard, "Bobby, throw the seeds on the lawn, as many seeds as you can." And because I'm an obedient little kid, I threw as many seeds as I could onto the front lawn. Now, when you throw seeds onto the ground, after a little while, something begins to happen. And especially in Jamaica at this time, it was the rainy season. And so the rain came down and the seeds went underground. And after a little while, I started to see some little sprouts coming up out of the ground. And after a little while, those sprouts turned into small watermelons. And the rain came again, and those little watermelons grew up into larger watermelons. And the rain kept coming down, and the more the rain came, the more those watermelons grew until they became these luscious, huge, juicy watermelons. After they became ripe enough, my dad and I, the same dad who told me not to throw the seeds into the lawn, we picked those watermelons and we sat on that porch eating the watermelons. Now, ideas are like seeds that, when watered, grow. And quite often, they grow in proportion to the amount of watering that they're given. And sometimes, when you have those seeds, sometimes when you have those ideas, you might even run into people that tell you not to plant the seeds or not to grow that idea, despite their best intentions. But when seeds are watered, they ultimately grow and nurture and feed. Over 17 years ago, a young woman was sitting at a table with some of her friends, and they were trying to figure out what was a good Black history program for youth. Yes, I said a young woman. You with me? And they came up with this idea for the Living Legends Awards. Now, as with any idea, over time, there are going to be people, there are going to be circumstances, there are going to be naysayers that will tell you not to continue with this or not to do this idea. But if you know Aunt Doreen, you know that she's a little bit stubborn sometimes, right? So she pushed through some of the naysayers, and she continued to grow this idea. And over the years, this idea has grown from just an award show into a program and a foundation that has partnered with Montgomery County and with the Emmanuel Brinklow Seventh-day Adventist Church to feed more than 1,000 families monthly and especially in this pandemic season, giving away home tests and N95 masks and things that really help families in our area to grow and sustain themselves. If you look at the Living Legends website, you will also see that one of the goals is to inspire young people to take on humanitarian tasks. So this seed, this idea from 17 years ago, has grown and continues to grow. But tonight, you get to do something special. This seed has grown and it's been watered, but tonight you get to make it rainy season. Tonight, you get to pour special water on this idea to continue to help it grow, because the goal of the Living Legends Awards for Service to Humanity for this season is $50,000, and we want to make sure that we not only feed 1,000 families, but that we eradicate food insecurity. Because these seeds are not small ideas. These seeds that they continue to be watered, these are great, grand, humongous, gigantic dreams that can be accomplished if you decide tonight to make it rainy season and support the Living Legends Awards for Service to Humanity. So do me a favor, if you can put on the screen for us, there are two ways for you to support this goal, this dream, this seed, this idea tonight. One way is by texting LLASH to 44321, and you get to put in any dollar amount that you want. If you want to put in $50,000 tonight, you can do that. I'll give you a handshake and a hug in the back. How about that? A socially distanced hug, okay? Text LLASH to 44321, or you can go to www.livinglegendsawards.org and click the donate button, and that will support and make it rainy season tonight for the Living Legends Awards for Service to Humanity. How many of you are with me tonight? How many of you have the goal or the idea or the desire to support the dream of not just helping humanitarian causes, but also eradicating food insecurity? Put your hands together if that's your goal tonight. Thank you for being a part of the dream. Thank you for being in attendance. And I implore you, I encourage you, I empower you tonight to make it rainy season for this goal, for this dream, for this seed of the Living Legends Awards for Service to Humanity. Thank you.
Tonight, we honor living legend, Jacqueminette Prilman. Jacqueminette's story begins in northern India, where she was born to William and Celoda Ray. After finishing high school at 16, Jacqueminette migrated with her parents to the U.S. Early on, Jacqueminette felt called to minister as a nurse. She applied to Washington Adventist University and was crushed when she wasn't accepted. She was not one to give up, so she applied to 2 more nursing programs and was accepted into both. Soon, she began studying at the Catholic University of America School of Nursing. She was advised to acquire hospital experience to augment her nurse training, so she applied to be a tech at her first choice, Washington Adventist Hospital, and was hired. Jacqueminette credits her studies at Catholic University for teaching her how to serve humanity. Jacqueminette started her nursing ministry as a neonatal intensive care nurse, then worked in a number of specialty areas. For the past 18 years, Jacqueminette has worked as a utilization management nurse, helping patients be admitted and discharged to the hospital. After work, she worked as a hospice nurse, caring for people in their final hours. One Friday afternoon in early 2020, Jacqueminette began feeling ill. She went to urgent care and was tested for a new virus called COVID-19. Although the test came back negative, Jacqueminette's instincts told her to get a second opinion. She went to another location to seek care, not knowing that she was about to have the most harrowing experience of her life. She suffered with fever, chills, and hallucinations, and lost her ability to speak as her organs began shutting down. She felt that she was on her deathbed, but her faith in God and the expertise of the nurses who cared for her carried her through. It would take her months to recover. Before long, Jacqueminette returned to the front lines as so many of her colleagues did. As a survivor of long COVID, she knew the fear and disruption that the virus could bring personally. As time passed, Jacqueminette saw the devastation the virus would bring to her profession and the world. She lost colleagues, patients, and almost hope, as did the 59 million healthcare workers around the world who were weathering the pandemic as essential workers. Tonight, with the deepest appreciation, we pay tribute to Nurse Jacqueline Prillman and all of the world's healthcare workers for their sacrifices and willingness to stand in the gap of life and loss.
Singing You Raised Me Up, please welcome Mr. Devin Mercer.
I am down and oh my soul so weary. When troubles come and my heart burdened be, then I am still and wait here in the silence until you come and sit a while with me. You raise me up so I can stand on mountains. You raise me up to walk on stormy seas. I am strong when I am on your shoulders. You raise me up to more than I can be. Shoulders, you raise me up to more than I can be. You raise me up so I can stand on mountains. You raise me up to walk on stormy seas. I raise me up to more than I can be.
Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together once again and give Dr. India Medley a very warm welcome.
Good evening. Nurses are some of the most amazing people in the world. It's a fact. We have knowledge of diseases, the pathophysiology, their clinical manifestations, what are the signs and symptoms, what are the appropriate treatments and actions, how to prioritize, what are the expected outcomes and evaluation. It's going on in our minds all day, every day. But it's not just knowledge. We have to be able to comprehend, look at the big picture, put pieces together all the time. Lab values, history, expectations of the patient, expectations of the diagnosis. But we also have to analyze and synthesize. Walk in a patient's room, we got to put all the pieces together. Right now, is the patient better? Is the patient worse? Or is the patient the same? Is this treatment not working? It is our responsibility to keep our hands on the pulse, literally and figuratively, of the patient's well-being. When I say nurse or nursing to people, and we start talking about our history, most people would probably think of Florence Nightingale. Florence Nightingale came into prominence as a result of her caring and leadership during the Crimean War back in 1853. But I have to ask you this. Did you know that Mary Seacole, a nurse, Jamaican-born and trained, had a very successful treatment record working side by side in the Caribbean with physicians and taking care and healing patients? Mary Seacole made her way to the Crimean War and actually approached Florence Nightingale. Now understand this. This is the 1800s. She made her way from Jamaica to the Black Sea because she was determined to go there and help the soldiers during the war. She said to Florence Nightingale, "I'm here to help you." Florence Nightingale said, "No, thank you," to Mary Seacole. Mary Seacole said, "Well, that's all right. I know my purpose." She went and found her own spot there by the Black Sea, and she pitched her tent, and she took care of those soldiers during that war successfully. And she could also cook very well. Those soldiers loved Mary Seacole's cooking. This is true. Check it out. I'm not making this stuff up. She demonstrated determination. She was steadfast, incomparable, courageous, faithful, dependable. And you know what? This is who we are as nurses. This is our history. Critical thinkers, caring, compassionate, visionaries, courageous, creative, with dogged determination. Don't tell us what is impossible to do. And we're faithful. Our honoree this evening is my dear friend, Jacqueline Prillman. And she is a nurse, a frontline nurse who encompasses all of those characteristics and traits that I just described to you. Seriously, I just described Jacqueline to you. As you heard in the video, she does spend most of her days as a care coordinator and on the front lines with hospice patients. But in 2020, March 2020, we became painfully aware of a disease called COVID-19. And nurses all over the United States, if they were not working in a hospital every single day, they were commissioned to work in a hospital every single day from that point on. Jacqueline, as a nurse, just like Mary Seacole, this is where I'm needed. Within her same healthcare system, she went right to their hospital, at the front lines, at the patient's bedside, caring for them. Now, remember, this was the beginning of the pandemic. Every single day, the CDC was giving us nuances, new things that have been studied, evidence-based practice. So we were making adjustments every day so that we could be protected, so that we could protect the patients, so that the patients could be healed. So we were making adjustments, and I tell you, I thank God for giving men and women scientific knowledge so that we can live. So Jacqueline, just like all the rest of us, were making adjustments every time we got this evidence-based information. And she lifted her patients up, just like that beautiful song says. And she cared for them. Was she afraid? Of course. I was. Every other nurse that I know was, because there was such an unknown. But did it stop her? No. Somebody said the other day, when the pandemic first started, everybody was driving fast away from their jobs to get home to start teleworking. But nurses were driving too. They were the only ones driving around to get back and forth to work. That's the truth. Were we tired? Yes. But Jacqueline showed up every day. And when she came home, took her clothes off at the door like all of us did. Don't touch me, anybody, till I take my shower. Put the clothes in the wash. Now we can convene as a family. Disinfected her home each and every day. That's what we did. That's what we did, and that's certainly what she did. And as you know, she started to feel sick. The word got to me that my friend wasn't feeling well. So I'm going to just share very briefly excerpts from actual text messages between my friend Jacqueline and me. On April 26, 2020 at 9:49 p.m., I heard Jacqueline was not feeling well, and I reached out to her. Jacqueline responded to me, and I quote, "Thank you. I can't text much. I am so short of breath. I will give Ronaldo my phone so he can get your phone numbers and update. I am likely going to have to go to the hospital." I immediately replied, "Tony and I, we are praying for you right now." Jacqueline was admitted to the hospital. It is now April 30th, 2020, 8:10 p.m. Jacqueline texts me, "Please pray for Ronaldo." Ronaldo, by the way, is her devoted and loving husband. And that was her first line to me: please pray for Ronaldo. The ER doctors and 3 RN nurses saved my life. I can't text much. My fevers persist up to 40 degrees Celsius. That equals 104 degrees. That was her temperature. Fluid-filled lungs she had. And I just had an emergency head CT scan. An infectious disease physician came from NIH today to consult on my case. I have been started on triple antibiotics, 3 IV bags running in at the same time. April 30th, 9:42 p.m. I send her a text moments later. Hold on, Jacqueline, please hold on. And I fell to the floor in tears crying, Jesus, please save Jacqueline. 2 weeks later, May 16th, 2020, 11:59 a.m., I found out Jacqueline was discharged home. I send her a text. You're home, praise the Lord. Jacqueline says, yes, thank God. After 14 days, this is her text still, after 14 days and 3 near-death experiences, I was discharged. The 2 physicians and 5 nurses who were also admitted before me, I am told, I was the first of them to leave. I went outside today. Ronaldo helped her to get dressed, to take care of her. The healer who needs healing was now being lifted up by her husband. Ronaldo took me outside today with my oxygen on. I am so overwhelmed watching the trees sway, birds chirp, and just the sunshine. I couldn't take it of 12 days of no fever breakthroughs. It was constantly 103.5 to 104 degrees. My lungs had whited out, constant desaturations, meaning she was gasping for breath, almost to the point of their having to intubate me. Critical labs done all day, IV fluids, triple antibiotics, and morphine drips. It was a very painful experience. Then she says, but Dr. Jesus had other plans for me. I was so blessed with the Christian nurses who sang to me every day and renewed my strength to fight. The doctors and all the specialists who saved my life, I don't even know where to begin. I am so blessed, and I thank you, India, and your family for keeping me in prayer. I read your text messages so many times where you told me to hold on, and I believe it was directly from God telling me to hold on to him. The nurses and all the doctors would say the same thing, hold on. And I wouldn't know, and I would say they don't know India, but they are saying the same thing, to hold on. I am so grateful beyond words. She said, I know God has plans for me. I know my purpose on this earth is not fulfilled, and I am thankful to God. So this evening, we honor you, Nurse Jacqueline Prillman, for your life and devotion to standing on the front lines of the COVID-19 pandemic. We thank you for who you are, what you represent, and what you do with infinite gratitude. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming my dear friend, our 2022 Living Legends honoree, Nurse Jacqueline Prillman.
Good evening. My husband says I'm long-winded and to keep it short, so I came with notes because I have much to say and I need to keep it short. I owe a debt of gratitude to nurse and former dean of the Catholic University of America, Sister Mary Jean Flaherty, who welcomed me with open arms, especially after you all heard about the disappointment of not being accepted for admission to Columbia Union College, now Washington Adventist University. Sister Flaherty proceeded to write on the school letterhead, the Olivia Gowan School of Nursing, now the Conway School of Nursing, the science of nursing, with minds to solve, hands to serve, and compassion through healing. Below it, a neatly handwritten four-year plan, which was shared with my advisor, Carolyn Diavis. The education and values instilled in my college years made an impact in my career and provided the foundation of the meaning of being informed by science, compassion, quality care, and excellence in service delivery. I worked as a bedside nurse with some of the most incredible and intellectual group of nurses who were classmates, schoolmates, graduates of Johns Hopkins School of Nursing, Georgetown, and some with advanced degrees from different parts of the world. We were young. We all believed in being change makers by the integrity of our work and pride in our knowledge. As I shifted from bedside nursing to case management, I was introduced to a young African-American gifted nurse. She spoke the language of triple aim, quality, access, and cost, long before the Triple Aim initiative was launched by the Institute for Healthcare Improvement. When Roz Stevens became the vice president of Amerigroup Corporation in DC, I was honored when she recruited me to manage the District of Columbia's vulnerable preemie infants. She introduced me to evidence-based decision support criteria, and I sought to memory criteria of almost every diagnosis that justified the hospital stay, just like my mentor did. Needless to say, today she has become one of the most sought-after nurse consultants in the United States and was recently recruited back to the District of Columbia to manage one of their MCOs. Several years later, illness hit close to home. My mother, who had been diagnosed with dementia, began to significantly decline. She was in and out of the hospital due to disease progression and other secondary illnesses. I was beyond grateful for understanding the language of criteria when I had to appeal medical denial letters that she received in the mail almost every day to have the denials overturned. The awards, accolades, and recognition became a norm for me, but I knew I had reached the pinnacle of my career in utilization management when I was asked to fly to headquarters to personally meet with the CEO of Amerigroup Corporation, Mr. Jeffrey McWaters, who presented me with the corporation's Nurse of the Year award. Shortly after, my mother, who had been in hospice care, died. She was a registered nurse, and in whose honor I wear this Nara today. After she died, a daunting void had formed in my life. I questioned the meaning of life, one's purpose for living, and then I began to reevaluate all over again the science of nursing with minds to solve, hands to serve, and compassion through healing. I decided to honor her legacy by becoming an after-hours hospice nurse. This shocked my family, as they very well knew that death and darkness gave me the heebie-jeebies. The pandemic arrived in early 2020, and as calls came nonstop with after-hours, end-of-life counseling and visit requests, my husband, who was terrified of COVID, would ask if the patient was COVID positive. As the weeks went by, and with both of us being work addicts and immersed in our jobs, as well as grad school for me, he eventually stopped asking, and I never told. I went from one visit to another to provide end-of-life support to patients and distraught families. I do not question science about the disproportionate impact of COVID-19 on African Americans, but in my humble opinion and experience, COVID-19 does not discriminate based on gender, age, or race. You see, my patients who were in hospice care and testing positive for COVID or exhibiting signs and symptoms of COVID were predominantly white or Jewish and lived in affluent white neighborhoods of Bethesda, Chevy Chase, and Potomac. And not to dispute science, but neither my African American husband nor children who I was in very close proximity with caught COVID from me. My patients were transitioning quicker than one could imagine. The death rattle was haunting. Patients were dying frightful deaths, unforgiving, struggle to the end deaths, and yes, some peaceful deaths. The magnitude of death brought utter chaos and grief to families who couldn't hold their loved ones or be by their side as they departed. Our work in hospice is dedicated to the understanding that each human being is precious and unique and has a value beyond anything we can express. Retired Navy Admiral William McRaven wrote an op-ed in the Washington Post early on in the pandemic on March 20, 2020. Nothing in our immediate future will be easy. The number of cases will rise, the losses will increase, the markets will stumble, but make no mistake about it, we will prevail because the only thing more contagious than a virus is hope. How poignant in hindsight, the power of those words for a nurse at the brink of death with nothing left but hope to survive. My story of near-death experience from COVID does not need a retell. India narrated it so well. Many of you know of the incredible care I received from fellow nurses. While I am grateful to the physicians who ordered my medical treatment, my will to survive at that time of utter hopelessness and despair was boosted by angels on earth, the nurses who provided zealous and compassionate care. I had nurses who even sang to me, and each of those songs have a special meaning in my life today. From the Lord is my light, and oh, I want to see him look upon his face, to Three Little Birds, and the all-time favorite by James Cleveland, Say You Are Sick. Tell me about it, and you think you can't get well. Where is your faith? Where is your faith in God? After I returned home from the hospital and slowly recuperated, months later, and against the wishes of my family, I made my first after-hours visit. It was a visit to support and provide end-of-life education to the young wife whose husband, age 44, was diagnosed with glioblastoma and nearing end of life. Towards the end of the almost 2-hour-long visit, I received another call to see if I was able to go on another visit 5 miles away in Chevy Chase. The gentleman, a prominent businessman in his mid-60s, was also experiencing end-of-life symptoms. He was refusing to put on his oxygen, and by now, I was short of breath under all that PPE. He was agitated and hallucinating. The wife, the son, and the 2 caregivers were at wit's end on what to do next. As I held his hand and asked him to tell me more about the creatures crawling on the wall, he enthusiastically pointed to the different walls and described the spiders and the bugs crawling. He then allowed me to put the oxygen on and opened his mouth just as wide so I could give him the morphine, lorazepam, and haloperidol. As he settled down in bed before I left, he held my hand and told me there was a white bus that came for him, but there was no room. And the conductor said he was fourth in line. 4 days later, he died. I have pondered many a night of my own near-death experience, and as I support my patients and families, often in the darkness and stillness of the night as they wait in anticipation of the transition to come, I am reminded that when we are faced with inescapable suffering and helplessness, we are compelled to learn, even against our will, that there is something suffering can't touch, and that is humanity. We are 2 years into this pandemic, and there is physical and emotional exhaustion. When everyone was scared to go to work, nurses went to work every day, regardless of the fear and uncertainty. Nurses have held on, but the stress and burnout of caring for patients amid a severe and growing shortage of nursing staff has caused many to switch jobs or leave the profession. For those of us that remain, there is an incredible sense of malaise and hopelessness, of compassion fatigue, and sometimes being put in a situation that defies our sense of values and ethics, and yet we go on. The dedication of America's nurses has been displayed in front-page newspaper and television stories across the country in the last 2 years. Florence Nightingale, the founder of the nursing profession, would be proud of the resiliency that nurses have shown. While we always honor the nurses of our past history, today we celebrate the nurses of the COVID-19 pandemic. Nurses like Sandra Lindsay, a nurse at Long Island Jewish Medical Center, who was the first to roll up her sleeve and receive the COVID vaccine. Amy O'Sullivan, an ER nurse in New York, who treated the first COVID-19 patient and herself ended up testing positive, was intubated for 4 days, only to return right back to work after recovering. Bonnie Castillo, Executive Director of the National Nurses United and the California Nurses Association, who was the first to highlight the lack of personal protective equipment for nurses. And I could not let this evening pass without recognizing and thanking Brinklow's First Lady and leader in nursing, our own Dr. India Medley, for her tireless efforts to support nurses during this pandemic. We also owe a debt of gratitude to the more than 200 registered nurses in the United States who died from contracting the virus. So on behalf of the 3.2 million nurses in the United States, thank you. Thank you, Doreen Hines and the Living Legends Awards for Service to Humanity in recognizing the work of the nurses in the front lines of this pandemic. Thank you, my fellow nurses, for your minds to solve, hands to serve, and compassion through healing and service as you continue on this difficult walk, push to new levels and are overcome with compassion fatigue, and face the challenges of burnout crisis. I would like to remind you that our help comes from the hills, and may your bad days prove that God is still good. Rabbi Naomi Levy, in her book, Talking to God, has written a prayer for overcoming burnout. It says, I am weary. God, please renew my spirit. When I despair, fill me with hope. When I feel as if I have no more to give, remind me that my strength comes from you. When I assume that my energy is finite, help me to see that I am connected to an infinite source of inspiration and goodness. When I lose faith in myself, remind me that I'm blessed with enormous talent and ability. When I get downtrodden, remind me that there is much work to be done and that there are many people who need my assistance. Teach me to see that my efforts do make a difference. When I forget why I am doing what I am doing, help me to recover the excitement, the meaning, the calling, and the satisfaction that led me to this work. When I lose direction, show me the way, God, back to passion, back to enthusiasm, back to you. When I'm weary, please renew my spirit. Thank you.
Tonight, we honor living legend, Dr. Erin K. O'Shea. Erin's story begins in the small town of Leroy, New York. She was the first of 5 children born to Bonnie and Dan O'Shea. Every summer, Erin and her siblings mowed lawns to meet their parents' requirement of a summer job. Erin credits this for propelling her into science research. After her first year at Smith College, Erin acquired a job in a lab on campus to avoid cutting lawns during the summer, and her passion for science research was ignited. She would go on to earn her biochemistry degree at Smith, then a PhD in chemistry from Massachusetts Institute of Technology. The newly minted Dr. O'Shea joined the faculty at the University of California, San Francisco, and worked with Dr. Carol Gross on a summer program for youth from underserved communities. This program would be life-orienting for Dr. O'Shea. Through working with the youth in this program, Dr. O'Shea came to understand how essential it was for science to include more diverse voices. From this time, Dr. O'Shea set out to open doors for students underrepresented in the sciences. Dr. O'Shea believes that only an inclusive scientific workforce that has racial, ethnic, and gender diversity can pioneer the life-saving medications and transformative technology that the world needs. In 2016, Dr. O'Shea became the first woman president of the Howard Hughes Medical Institute, HHMI. As president of HHMI, Dr. O'Shea has launched several initiatives that foster an environment where African American students and staff can both thrive as scientists and have the space they need to process racial trauma. Following the murder of George Floyd, Dr. O'Shea held space for the African American members of the HHMI family, and they were empowered to create a platform where they could continue to engage as a group. Under Dr. O'Shea's leadership, HHMI committed $2 billion to increase racial, ethnic, and gender diversity in science and to foster the environments that enable students from all backgrounds to advance. In addition to her work at HHMI, Dr. O'Shea is a professor at Harvard University and manages her own research lab. Dr. O'Shea is the type of leader who embodies her values, reaching out to staff in need and making herself available to face issues that arise. Dr. O'Shea is actively being the change in science that she wants to see.
Singing Changed for Good, please welcome Crystal Freeman.
That people come into our lives for a reason, bringing something we must learn, and we are led to those who help us most grow if we let them. and we help them in return. Well, I don't know if I believe that's true, but I know I'm who I am today because I knew you. Like a comet pulled from orbit as it passes the sun, like a stream that meets a boulder halfway through the wood. Who can say if I am changed for the better? But because I knew you, I have been changed for good. It well may be that we will never meet again in this lifetime. So let me say before we part, so much of me is made from what I've learned from you. You'll be with me like a handprint on my heart. And now whatever way our stories end, I know you have rewritten mine by being my friend. Like a ship torn from its mooring by a wind off the sea, like a seed dropped by a sky bird in a distant wood. Who can say if I've been changed for the better? But because I knew you, because I knew you, I have been changed for good. And just to clear the air, I ask forgiveness for the things I've done you've blamed me for. But then I guess there's blame enough to share, and none of it seems to matter anymore. Like a comet pulled from orbit as it passes the sun, like a stream that meets a boulder halfway through the wood. Who can say if I've been changed for the better? I do believe I have been changed for the better. And because I knew you, because I knew you, because I knew you, I have been changed for good.
Please welcome to the stage Attorney Erin Jones.
Wow. Ms. Freeman, that was incredible. That was just a moving, very moving tribute. I do believe I've been changed for the better. And because I knew you, I have been changed for good. Changed for good. What a beautiful tribute and fitting message for this evening's awardees. I'm honored to be here to celebrate my boss, my friend, and the president of the Howard Hughes Medical Institute, Dr. Erin O'Shea. But before I invite her to the stage, I want to share a bit about how Erin has pushed herself, me, and so many in the scientific research community to be changed for good. Erin has long recognized that diverse perspectives spark the most innovative ideas. In 2018, her bold vision and fearless approach inspired me to hit pause on my own legal career and take on my current role as HHMI's Chief of Staff. From the outset, Erin made clear that her goal was to dramatically change the research community for good, specifically creating opportunities for greater racial, ethnic, and gender diversity in science. Even with this longstanding commitment, I witnessed something get stirred up deep in Erin's soul following the 2020 murders of George Floyd, Ahmaud Arbery, and Breonna Taylor. I was at her side as she put in the work to better understand how to effectively tackle racial equity, reading countless articles and books, all the while challenging her own preconceived notions at every turn. I think we all know that true change requires a leader who recognizes there won't always be agreement on the path ahead, but there's always a need to keep moving forward. Nearly 2 years into the pandemic, and in the midst still of our nation's racial reckoning, we've witnessed countless leaders walk back commitments as time moves on, the news cycle, and the public spotlight all shift away. But Erin's determination has only deepened as she continues listening carefully to diverse perspectives, using those to help bring her vision into even sharper focus. Through Erin's leadership, HHMI, as you heard in the video, has committed resources, over $2.5 billion and lots of staff, to programs spanning the educational and career paths that academic researchers travel, dedicated to changing the face of science so its ranks better reflect our local communities and our world. We honor you this evening, Erin, for leading by example and creating scientific environments where women scientists, scientists of color, and those who represent both groups, and so many others, belong and are valued, where all voices are heard. Ladies and gentlemen, let's bring to the stage our 2022 Living Legends honoree, Dr. Erin O'Shea. Thank you. Okay.
Wow. Thank you, Erin. What a wonderful introduction, and thank you all for inviting me here tonight and really generously recognizing the work that I have done and really done with colleagues, including Erin, with this fantastic award. So what I'd like to do is to just share a bit of my experience. And what I hope this will do is inspire you all to continue supporting and believing in education for young people who are interested in science. As you heard, I'm from a very small town in upstate New York, and when I say small, I mean there were about 6,000 people in the town I grew up, and I went to local schools, and I had one of those high school chemistry teachers who really made learning science so fun. But it was really my time in college that made me a scientist. I went to college in Massachusetts at Smith, which is an all-women's college. I chose it because I was interested in chemistry, physics, and math. And when I visited other schools, I saw that a lot of the students in those classes were men. It was a striking contrast when I went to visit Smith because it's all women. You go to those same classes, and there were women sitting there instead of men. And I felt like I would have more opportunities there and more of a sense of belonging in those areas of science that were traditionally so dominated by men. And so I went to Smith, and that experience really launched my career. I'm sure you're all familiar with HBCUs, or historically black colleges and universities. And I imagine that some of what I experienced at Smith is similar to what students at HBCUs can experience. And that is a sense of real belonging and also a freedom to be yourself. One of the grand challenges of our time is how to make undergraduate education the kind of environment where everyone can feel that they belong, no matter what school they go to, because there's always diversity on campus and inclusion in the culture. Too many students encounter academic environments that feel closed off and unwelcoming. In particular, students from racial, ethnic, and gender backgrounds underrepresented in science frequently find themselves in classrooms and other settings where they feel they just don't belong. And at the end of the day, without the support they deserve, many abandon science to explore other opportunities. And that's a loss for all of us, because diverse perspectives lead to innovation. And as a society, you all know we're confronting so many tough questions today: the pandemic, climate change, and so much more. We need the best and brightest minds from all kinds of backgrounds in order to help us advance. And that means we need to take concrete steps towards enabling everyone to thrive in science. And as you heard, at HHMI, we're privileged to have the resources to support diversity and inclusion in academic science at every career stage, from undergraduate all the way through to senior academic faculty. And last fall, we made a more than $2 billion commitment to specific programs that we believe can contribute to a better future for science. We still have a lot to learn as we pursue this work with others, but I'm filled with optimism. I believe deeply that everyone deserves the same chances that I had to discover who I am and what I can contribute to the world. And in my own small way, I hope to make that possible for future scientists. So thank you again.
Tonight, we honor living legend Barbara R. Arnwine. Barbara's story begins in Long Beach, California. She was the fifth of 12 children, born to Vera Pearl and Obie Arnwine. Barbara was an intelligent child and won several scholarships, including a scholarship to the academically challenging Scripps College. Barbara's father was convinced that education was dangerous, especially for girls, and did not want his first daughter to go to college. However, Barbara's mother wanted her daughter to experience everything that she hadn't, so Barbara left home to continue her education. Barbara was one of only 85 black students at Scripps. She was instrumental in civil rights work on campus and remembers hearing a speech by Malcolm X, which inspired her to learn more about her people. That, along with the injustice committed against poor, hungry, and homeless people that she witnessed growing up, fueled Barbara to become a champion for civil rights. After graduating from Scripps, Barbara planned on becoming an educator, but after a chance and providential encounter with an attorney, Barbara pivoted to a career in law. Since then, Barbara has been on the front lines of combating racial and gender discrimination in America's capital, courtrooms, streets, and wherever you may find her. Barbara has worked on public advocacy, lobbied members of Congress, spoke out about inadequate affirmative action policies, and affected civil rights law on a national level. She led the effort to secure passage of the Civil Rights Act of 1991 and was instrumental in the 2006 reauthorization of the Voting Rights Act. Barbara founded the Election Protection Program and the Transformative Justice Coalition. Most recently, Barbara became a key figure behind the push to get equal voting in the lead-up to the historical Georgia runoff election in 2021. It was a coalition of strong Black women like LaTosha Brown, Nsé Ufot, and Helen Butler, who spearheaded the efforts that resulted in Democrat candidates securing Georgia's 2 Senate seats. Barbara recounts, "Georgia threw everything at us, but they forgot one thing. We're unstoppable. Tell us what's impossible and watch us make it possible. Don't ever underestimate a Black woman." Barbara's record of victories and awards is long and prestigious. Likewise, the memories of unfair treatment that fuel her extend for miles.
Ms. Sharice Tomlin has ascended the stage to sing Stand Up.
Face turned to the sun. Weight on my shoulders, a bullet in my gun. Oh, I got eyes in the back of my head, just in case I have to run. Do what I can when I can, while I can for my people. And when the clouds roll back and the stars fill the night, that's when I'm gonna stand up, take my people with me. Together we are going to a brand new home, far across the river. I hear freedom calling, calling me to answer. Gonna keep on keeping on. I can feel it in my bones. Early in the morning, before the sun begins to shine, we're gonna start moving toward that separating line. I'm wading through muddy water. You know I got a made up mind, and I don't mind if I lose any blood on my way to salvation. And I'll fight with the strength that I've got until I die. That's when I'm gonna stand up, take my people with me. Together we are going to a brand new home, far across the river. I hear freedom calling, calling me to answer. Gonna keep on keeping on. And I know what's around the bend might be hard to face 'cause I'm alone, but I just might fail. But Lord, He knows I try. Sure stars fill up the sky. Stand up, take my people with me. Together we are going to a brand new home, far across the river. I hear freedom calling, calling me to answer. Gonna keep on keeping on. I'm gonna stand up, take my people with me. Together we are going to a brand new home, far across the river. Can you hear freedom calling, calling me to answer? Gonna keep on keeping on. I'm gonna stand up, take my people with me. Together we are going to a brand new home, far across the river. I hear freedom calling, calling me to answer. Gonna keep on keeping on. I can feel it in my bones. To prepare a place for you. I go 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 to prepare a place for you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Professor Alice Thomas.
Good evening, and thank you for asking me here this evening and give me the honor of introducing you to Barbara R. Unwine. And it's with great humility and humbleness that I take this opportunity on, because it's been quite a journey in the years in which I've known Ms. Unwine and gotten to grow in the wake of her work and her experience. Because I didn't know until I read more about you in a different way that my journey as a lawyer, I graduated from Howard Law School, and Aaron Jones is also an alum of Howard, and as Dr. O'Shea mentioned, that we are from HBCUs, and yes, we're all here and present, so Howard is in the house. Charles Hamilton Houston is in the house. But I'll just say that I had no idea that I thought my first interaction with you was when I was invited to join Dean Alice Bullock and you on a program that I helped to produce. I had no idea that you were one of the key people behind the passage of the Title VII Act of 1991, right? And it was critical in my early work as a lawyer. It was one of my first big wins, and I had no idea that I owed it to you. So thank you for my first big win as a lawyer, because I represented an employee who had been discriminated against, and at that time, before you passed, the law got passed in 1991, they could only go before the judge. They didn't have a right to a jury trial. And so all the employers filed motions for summary judgment that throw all the cases out the door because judges can decide everything. They do the law and the fact. They take care of everything. And almost always, employees lost. So when I had this case in like 91, 92, I researched the law, because I will do that. I'll research the law, and I found that the law had changed. That 1991 Act had changed, and DC had recognized the change in the law. And they said, we ought to be a little bit more reticent about kicking those employees' cases out on motions for summary judgment. So, I wrote the opposing brief to the motion for summary judgment, putting as many facts in as I could. It was probably 30 pages long, 100 disputed facts. So when we were called to the court that day, the federal court that day, the judge literally read my brief to the opposing counsel saying, I deny your motion. The other person put her hands in her head and cried because she had to go back and report to her corporate boss that she just lost the case. And all I could do was smile. I'm just like, and I had no idea I owed you that victory because we led to a settlement, which they normally never give. And our client could live on for the rest of his life and do what he needed to do. So thank you for that. And what I want to say is just stand up and save my people and take me over the river. Absolutely. Because if you noticed her on that screen a few seconds ago, she was always in front. She's always talking. She's talking for those who don't have voice, don't have presence. But she was never silent. Her mouth was always moving. She was talking. And she does that. And she does that on many grand scales. And she is the president of the Transformative Coalition for Justice, which is her new transformative. She didn't just say transform or just justice. She said Transformative Justice Coalition. She's doing that now, and she didn't sit down. When she finished spending 26 years as the executive director of the Civil Rights Committee for Law, under law, she could have sat down after 26 years. And she said, she's shaking her head, she says, absolutely not. She then started another organization. And I've had more recent interaction with Ms. Arnwine because she does these activities. She reaches out to the law school, she reaches out to the law students, and I've brought groups and hordes of students to her activities to bear witness to what she does. But as a professor, and I will be completing 29 years in May, but I know my job is to put before the next coming ups, the next ones, I need to put them before you, so they can learn from your example. And you are such an example because you always put your hands back around students and faculty in schools. And I will continue to do that work and continue to lift your name to them and as an example. Because you brought us out to talk about just say her name. It was about all the women who have been murdered by police. We may know the men, but they get the news coverage more than the women get the news coverage. And you said just say her name. And you brought us to you, and you brought the students, you brought the whole community around. Let's lift up those women who've been murdered by police. So you did that. And then the other thing that you did recently was to honor other women who are great luminaries for us to all follow. So I came and brought the students to bear witness to what you were talking about there. And so I would just say to you that I'm thankful to you for all that you do, and you do it consistently. And you do it with no expectation other than to change things for the lives of others. You're nationally and internationally renowned for what you do. You do human rights, civil rights. You do things in the area of voters' rights. You do criminal justice reform. There's nothing you don't do. If there's a problem, a need, a door that needs to be opened, you open that door for all of us. So we're just thankful that you keep your eyes open, you stay doing the work. And I will tell you that when we called to let Ms. Arnwine know that this opportunity would be presented to her, she wasn't here. She was in New Orleans because she was there with her mother. She's a daughter too. She was taking care of her mother who had a health crisis in that moment. But she stepped up, got on a plane, came right back to Washington because she had more work in Washington, but she still cared for her family and for her mother. So for everything that you do, you care for others, and we want to make sure we care for you. So tonight, we're honoring you. So they've told me that I have the opportunity of saying to you that we celebrate you, your strength, your courage, your tenacity, your determination, your unrelentlessness. You are just determined. You will not give up. And I can't say that we can't miss this moment right now because she does justice, diversity. We just had, is it Ketanji Brown Jackson, who just got nominated? Yes, to the Supreme Court. And we all must show up. We must all call all our representatives. We must all get people out there to vote because we stand on the precipice of the door in the moment where there may be someone on the Supreme Court who looks like us, looks like Barbara, who has a mindset like Barbara has, and I believe Brown Jackson has one of those mindsets. But we just can't miss today and say that with all your work, you probably have been in relationship and contact with her over the years. And so today we honor you because we're standing on the precipice of the next 100 years in America. So I just thank you, and we want to bring you forward and present this honor to you. And I was asked to say it in this way. And give me a second, because I'm not good with telephone and technology, but I'm working on that piece. But it says, Ida B. Wells advised us that the way to right wrongs is to turn the light upon them every day, and the truth upon them. And you fulfill those words in everything you do. You shed light. You shed light and the truth on all these challenges and legal conundrums that we face as African American people, as people of color, as all kind of people across the spectrum of people. So we just thank you for what you do, and I thank you, we all thank you, and we're here to celebrate you this evening. So we're going to invite you forward to receive your award.
Beautiful. You know, I played second, I sat for second seat for viola in my orchestra, and I always loved, you know, a choral and an orchestra. So thank you for everything. You've been beautiful tonight, because there's, you know, inspiration. I want to, start by saying it's humbling. It's so deeply humbling to be here tonight, to be honored like this, because everything I do comes from God. I mean, it's Him, it's God's Spirit that manifests through me. And I thank Him every day that He lets me be a vehicle, an instrument of His will. Because I'm nothing without Him. And I have no fantasies about that. You see, I'm so grateful today to Doreen Hines, who said, please get dressed up. I wouldn't have come here with no torn off jeans, but I understand. And I want to, thank the Living Legacy Awards Committee foundation for this incredible award. What a beauty to be honored alongside Jacquinetta and Aaron. What an honor. I'll never forget either one of you because you have deeply touched my soul tonight. Professor Alice Thomas, what an angel you are to nominate me for this award and to present it tonight. And to my son, Justin Arnwine, thank you for coming and being with your boring mama tonight. I appreciate you so much because I know there were 1,000 things trying to pull you in a different direction. But thank you for standing by your mom tonight and for your friend Caitlin for being with us. I just want to say, you got to understand that in some regards, I never had a choice. I was born a protest baby. My mother had 12 children. I was her 4th child. And when she heard that she was going to have her 4th child, she made up her mind that this child would not be born in the segregated black hospital, that they always took her to passing by the white hospital in Seaside Hospital in Long Beach. So she did something extraordinary. Fortunately, my father wasn't around to know. When she went into labor, she refused to call the ambulance. She waited until the pains got real close, and she called the ambulance. And they looked at her and they said, "Oh, we got to take her to the closest hospital possible." And they took her to the White Hospital. And the nurse, and I know nurses are, I love nurses. My sister's a nurse. My mom is, really desperately she had a massive stroke a month ago, and nurses have kept her alive. And I just want you to know, however, this white nurse looked at my mom and said, "What we gonna do?" Because I was crowning. And the doctor looked at her and said, "We're gonna deliver a baby." Because they were trying to, tie me up so that they could get me to the black hospital. I was the first black baby born in that white hospital because my mother had a vision that segregation had to fall and that she was going to use my birth to make that happen. And then because so, when they say this award is about 4 things, one of them being advocacy, I became an advocate because my mom made me one. You got to understand that when I was born at the hospital, they didn't have to give me baby care at the hospital. And my mom said I would go in there all the time with my nose wrinkled up, looking around like I did not want to be there. But anyway, we changed that hospital, and it had to start catering to so many people. Oldest daughter, 3 older brothers, grew up thinking my name was that girl. It made me an advocate. And I learned, to have to be a fighter, a leader, so early in life. And when I went to Scripps College for Women, so I understand her and how beautiful it is when you went to Smith, it was everything to be able to fight for black studies, for women's rights, for the rights of the economically disadvantaged. I knew that that was my calling in life. So when you talk about leadership, I always tell people leadership is everything, if done right. And as a black woman leader, I know it's never been easy. I've always been challenged. And I love when Ketanji was introduced with Kamala Harris on the other side of her. And I'm looking at that woman with my skin color, with her beautiful lips, with her wide eyes, with her locks. Whoa! I said, go on, girl. And when she spoke in her eloquence, and she paid tribute to Constance Baker Motley, I said, go on, girl. You see, she only could stand there. Biden could only make that pledge because black women did what? They voted. Black women were not to be denied. We brought everything we had. We brought the spirit of Harriet Tubman. Yes, that's why that song, Stand Up. Take my people with me. Oh yes, we brought everybody across the line. We brought not only black folks, we brought every folk in this country across that line. In 2020, when they said it was going to be the lowest voter turnout in history, I always tell people the mass media doesn't know what they're talking about. You know, they can't tell me nothing. I don't want to hear anything because it's all about leadership. What did Mandela say? He says they always say it's impossible until it's done. That has to be the mantra of leadership. You got to have courage. You got to be bold. You got to be creative. You got to be sacrificial. You got to have the ability to have passion deep in your soul. If it's not burning, then it's not right. Don't get on the front lines if you don't know how to hold the line. Don't start the fight if you don't know how to finish it. Don't be there. I'm tired of people just standing around wanting to be seen, feeding their daring egos. I'm tired of it. It's time for real, beautiful change. You got to have the courage of an Jacquelinetta. You got to have a courage of an Aaron. Because every time you change something in any system, there's resistance. There's somebody sitting back going, what? That's different. That shouldn't be happening. That's not what I'm used to. What you doing? And you got to say, I'm doing what needs to be done. What should have been done years ago. So when you talk about civil rights, we know that the battle in our nation is one to overcome our evils that were founded upon this country. You know, the theft of Native American land, the genocide against too many Native American populations. 25 million Native Americans were in this country, what is called the borders of this country, when Europeans came here. Only 5 million now. You know, we know that slavery was so ugly and vicious, and I'm so grateful to the 1619 Project and all of those who are telling the truth. But there are those who say, what? Don't teach it. There are legislatures, some 18, that have already passed laws saying you can't teach black studies. Don't teach Mexican-American studies. Don't teach women's studies. They're banning books. Don't want people teaching any books written by Dr. Martin Luther King, saying that you can't have books that talk about LGBTQIA rights, saying that you can't even talk about the Holocaust. I mean, these people, you see, they don't understand. You can't fight the wind. The wind of change is upon this country. And when the wind comes, you can do everything you want to, but you can't stop it because it's coming. And I believe that we got to understand that even with this anti-woke legislation being passed just 2 days ago in Florida, that the good news is that a CBS poll just came out. What did it say, folks? It said that 83 to 87% of all Americans say, teach the truth. Teach the history. Teach the honest truth about our nation. Because how else do we get understanding? How else do we grow as a people? How else do we transition to a more just, a more unified, a more better nation? Oh, yes. Read that poll. It's fascinating to see how our people are talking. And we got to understand that this threat to public education, this threat to our vote is also a threat to our democracy. So voting rights on the front lines, right? Virtually everything comes down to voting. In 2011, you honored the magnificent, inspirational, amazing John Lewis. Oh my goodness. John Lewis is deep in my soul. Just like Harriet, just like Sojourner, just like so many, Ida B., all of them, Frederick, all of them. Because the vote is about human dignity. The vote is the greatest right that any human being has to have their voice heard. You see, at this moment that we're in right now, my soul trembles as the ground trembles in Ukraine. My soul trembles as the souls of black women are quickening throughout the country watching Ketanji's nomination. My soul trembles because we are in a time of voter suppression, which is the greatest injustice to human dignity, trying to take away a person's right to vote. So you got to understand, 2 days ago, this time, 2 days ago, I was landing into DCA, having come from Brunswick, having fought to not only convict the murderers of Ahmaud Arbery, but to have gotten the hate crimes case won. And we not only did that this past Tuesday, but on Wednesday, we had the second anniversary of the slaying of Ahmaud. And we were able to say in his bloodstains in Satilla Shores outside of Brunswick and say, rest in peace, dears. We have done what we're gonna do, and we got more to do, because we're not finished yet, baby. Because we're gonna put Jacqueline Johnson, that prosecutor who lied and tried to cover up your murder by trying to secure and hide the evidence against those murderers, that we're going to put her underneath the jail also. You see, that is who we are. And so when I stand here before you today, I know the battle's not over. I have no illusions. I know that I am just one in a continuum of freedom fighters, one in a continuum of warriors, one who understands that we have the work to do, and it only gets done if we, the living, do the work, that we pass on the legacy of what we accomplished from generation to generation to generation, that if we had not called our friends, if we had not done the phone banking, if we had not done the videos about how to vote absentee, how to vote by mail, if we had not done this work in 2020, if we had not canvassed, walked neighborhoods, wrote postcards, done voter Ks, done things we never done in our history, if we had not done that, where would we be today? It's because of our work, not because of our wishes, not because of our dreams, but because of our work, that God rewarded us with victories. So as we go this week, this coming week, we'll be in Selma, Alabama, because it is the anniversary coming up of Bloody Sunday. And we will not only commemorate that anniversary, but we will say to the ancestors and we will say to future generations that we will continue that work. Because John Lewis told us what to do. He said, good and get into what? Good trouble. We're going to get into good trouble in 2022. And we're going to bring it home again, despite all the naysayers, because we are unstoppable. Thank you.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for a rousing round of applause for Dr. Anwar Atley, as he so skillfully and majestically led the Columbia Collegiate Chorale and the Living Legend Award singers in a wonderful presentation of music tonight. Dr. Atley, singers, we thank you. We thank you. And now, please welcome Dr. Noah Washington, the Associate Pastor of the Emmanuel Brinklow Seventh-day Adventist Church.
I'm not sure what to say after my sister just finished preaching, talking, accepting, all of the above. I think we all would agree that tonight was a night well spent. To Pastor Barrentos, thank you for your love in opening your building, your church tonight, for this to happen. To Dr. Anwar Atley and this amazing choir and instrumentalists. And then to our executive director, Ms. Doreen, I don't take no for an answer, Hines. Would you stand and just receive? Let's put our hands together. Would you stand a little bit? I know you're tired. This has been an amazing. And what we could really all do tonight is tell her thank you for really every year pressing and pushing us to think about what we are personally doing to make life better for other people. This is 17 years now, and I thought it fitting that in the Bible, 17 is a number that often resembles overcoming the enemy and complete victory. And in this 17th year, we were charged tonight to make sure we do something to overcome what enemy forces are out there that are discouraging and despising people. And while we sit here in the comfort of Sligo Seventh-day Adventist Church, my mind, to be honest, the entire evening was thinking about our brothers and sisters in Ukraine. And while I was sitting there, I got a message that really can sum up why we're here tonight. The president of Ukraine received a message from the United States of America. And the message was, we can send you a ride to get you out of Ukraine. And the president of Ukraine responded to what I think is one of the dopest lines in 2022. He responded and said, the fight is here. I don't need a ride out of town. I need ammunition. And I pray that as we leave tonight, we would leave with ammunition to go make life a better place for our brothers and sisters. Would you stand as we pray tonight? We're going to ask that as we leave, if you would like to make a check to this amazing organization, to the Living Legends, you can do so with a check. You will see in your programs tonight there is an envelope where you can leave a check or cash, and you can put that in the envelope and give it to the ushers on the way out. They will take it as you are exiting tonight. And then after the benediction is said, if you would remain seated, and the ushers will usher you from the back to the front. We ask that you would go home, be safe, and think about how you can be a blessing in the life of someone else. Father, thank you for your presence here tonight as we were all charged to go home and think about what you're impressing our minds to do, to bless, to uplift, to walk in purpose, to do something so that when we die, our living would not have been in vain. In Jesus' name, amen. You may be seated.
When the glory comes, it will be ours. It will be ours. Oh, one day, when the war is won, we will be sure. We will be sure. Oh, glory. Glory comes, it will be ours, it will be ours. Oh, one day, when the war is won, we will be sure, we will be sure. Oh, glory, yeah. Oh, glory. Now the war isn't over, the victory isn't won, but we'll fight on to the finish. And then when it's all done, now the war is not over, but we'll fight on to the finish. And then when it's all done, now the war isn't over, the victory isn't won, but we'll fight on to the finish. And then when it's all done, we'll cry glory, we'll sing glory, we'll shout glory, oh glory, oh.
Hands to the heavens, no man, no weapon formed against, yes, glory is destined. Every day women and men become legends. Sins that go against our skin become blessings. Movement is a rhythm to us. Rhythm is like precision to us. Justice is juxtaposition to us. Justice for all just ain't specific enough. One son died, his spirit is revisiting us. True and living in us. The resistance is us. That's why Rosa sat on the bus. Look, that's why I walked through Ferguson with our hands up. When it goes down, we woman and man up. They say stand down, and we stand up. Shots, we on the ground, the camera panned up. Tended to the mountaintop, and we ran up. Selma is now for every man, woman, and child. Even Jesus got his crown in front of a crowd. They say march with the torch, we gon' run with it now. Never looking back, we done gone hundreds of miles. From dark roads, heroes, to become a hero. Facing the League of Justice, his power was the people. Enemy is lethal, a king became regal. Lord, the name of Jim Crow under a bald ego. The biggest weapon is to stay peaceful. We sing, our music is the cuts that we bleed through. In the dream we had an epiphany. Now we right the wrongs of history. No one can win the war individually. It needs the wisdom of the elders and young people's energy. We own the glory. Coming of the Lord, my eyes have seen the glory.
When the glory comes, it will be ours. It'll be ours. Oh, one day, when the war is won, we will be sure. We will be sure. Oh, glory. We'll cry glory. We'll sing glory. Glory.
all done. Now the war isn't over, the victory isn't won, but we'll fight on to the finish, and then when it's all done, now the war is not over, but we'll fight on, we'll fight on, we'll fight against oppression, we'll fight against inequality, we'll fight for justice, and we will fight for peace.